So yeah, thanks for being here. Hopefully you find a lot of value in the information, and we can go forth and increase play within society together. So look, let me introduce myself for those who don't know me. So, and my name's Shane, obviously. Want to welcome you to the Play Lab because it's something that I'm passionate about. My journey started in sport when I was young, like a lot of people. I was played cricket all the way through my childhood up until I was 30 years old. So I used that as my avenue and my outlet of play. And I guess while I was playing cricket and all the different aspects of leadership and fun that was coming with that, I didn't realize the impact it was having on my overall life in terms of productivity and efficiency and the connections and just the overall fun. And it wasn't until I stopped playing at the age of 30 that I realized the impact that potentially had on me. So, at that particular time, I joined Corporate Challenge, and today, lucky enough to spend my time working with, companies that are really people focused, organizations that want to create the best possible cultures for their teams, get to talk about play every day, culture, different practical strategies that really make a difference in daily life and for work. And I'm totally grateful to do that. Work with some fantastic people as well, so it's always fun. I guess for me, but the mission is quite simple. Because I know the impact of play on my personal life. I'm here to try and shape a world where play is used to live, learn, and lead a little bit differently. And that's why I love running webinars, events, and always just having conversations. So hopefully over the next 45 minutes on the webinar, we can explore some of the science behind play. We can see why it's so powerful, and I can give you an insight into what the next 12 months of webinars looks like, because play it's a big concept, and it's a big idea that you need to wrap your head around. And we also obviously have business outcomes and different personal outcomes we go forth. So we need to ensure that it's something we can ripple into our life rather than a big dump of information and then forget about it all in one. So I want to start with this question, and it's a question and it's a statement in one. What if I told you play was as important to your body as nutrition, as sleeping, as moving? What would your initial reaction be to that comment? And I can tell you that the people I ask this question all the time, most people think that's ludicrous. They know the foundation in their health and wellness around sleep and movement and good food and so forth, but play is actually a part of an emotional system that's hardwired into our brains, no different than caretaking and love and fear and those biological systems that make us human. And there's a lot of research around that, in particular from Jaak Panksepp, who did a lot of research around how it lights up different areas of the brain when you play. So, it activates core emotional systems, and that's why it's there. It stimulates the neurocircuits in the brain. It strengthens the brain and the neural pathways. It improves our social intelligence through play. We learn how to cooperate and be more empathetic and communicate, and essential skills that are soft skills, as well as the foundation of reducing stress and regulating our emotions. So it's a big statement to say that it is as important to your body as all those foundational wellness and health avenues, but it's true. And sometimes people forget that play is what makes us human. So we just need to take a moment sometimes to understand that this is one of the most fundamental aspects of human growth and performance. And it's something we need to be very mindful of at all times. Looking at today in the webinar series over the next 12 months, when we came together with the concept of trying to educate more on play, we understood that we needed a purpose and how it was going to lead out. What myself and the rest of the team really love doing is looking at the science behind play, the science behind what makes play so great, and understanding that. But where we need to not improve, but in terms of educate, is how do we bridge the gap between what we know and what we practice every day and that practical application in organizations that we work with. We need to make the science a little bit more actionable for teams and leaders and so forth, so we can actually empower them to use it beyond our events and beyond what we do. So for us, the purpose of what we're trying to do with the Play Lab over the next 12 months is actually empowering the leaders and individuals to take the information and the science and actually integrate that into their teams, integrate it into the daily rhythms that they have, the meetings, the offsites, and everything in their personal routines, so they can have a thriving culture that strengthens their team, through collaboration. So that is how we're going to drive play, and the purpose of the Play Lab over the next 12 months in terms of the content to drive that meaningful impact. To give some better insight to how we got to this point, a little bit on the corporate challenge story. If it's your first day or you're just coming around corporate challenge information at the moment. So company's been around for more than 30 years now, and it was, the best in the country for one thing, what we label now agenda filler fun. So it was events that didn't really have much purpose other than having fun, bringing teams together to connect, and that could have been an amazing race on the Gold Coast or a safe crack in Sydney, Lego in Perth. It didn't really matter what the event was. What mattered was teams just wanted us to be there for a period of time, 2, 3 hours, to, I guess, have a break from whatever else was going on their agenda, whether it was a business update or so forth, to have some fun. And I guess having done that so well for so many years, hundreds and hundreds and over thousands of events, there was patterns emerged, and what we found was a lot of clients who would come back year after year. There'd be two patterns. One would be the same challenges that we'd hear year in, year out around challenges around social connection, around team cohesion, lack of productivity, even though they were investing in team building year in, year out. And that was a concern, because what was happening is we realized is we were just entertainment for them. We actually weren't having that longer term impact, which is what we want to do. And then we had the second side of everything around the companies who actually use their event as a catalyst to introduce play and the fun concept on an ongoing basis. And when they would come back, we would hear different stories around how much better their culture is, how it's thriving, the connections, how it's the best place they've ever worked. And when we've delved into the science of that, we've realized that it is about how they've applied the concepts on an ongoing basis, rather than just a one-off event and feeling like that, what we call like a sugar hit of an event, was going to solve all their problems or it was going to improve their team cohesion. So that was what led us down the science. And I know, Dwayne, if you're around, I know Dwayne's been in the business, for more than 30 years himself. So I'd be keen on your insights, mate, to share very quickly anything on top of that, because you've been involved in that process for a long time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I suppose for me, what it was, and you alluded to it there, is we did know for a long time, and we've all sat back and admired from a distance some of the biggest organisations on the planet. You got your Virgins, your Googles, your Southwest Airlines, and we always knew that they had something unique going on, and we would probably brand that they had a positive workplace culture. But the real definition of a positive workplace culture was sort of almost the missing piece. And when we discovered play about 5 years ago, and the science that goes into play, and the 60 plus years of research that's gone into it, it became that missing piece that it really explained why what we do is essential for high performing teams. It's not optional. It's something that's essential to high performing teams. So I suppose that from my perspective, there was a long time of putting those pieces together, and this discovery of play was powerful.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And to this day now, that drives the conversations, doesn't it, that we have internally around how we can keep improving and learning about this, because it is so powerful. And it's just a concept. So I guess to expand on that a little bit further, this is the model that we look around helping our clients understand why it's important to actually understand play and implement it. So as I mentioned before, the agenda feel of fun is something that hasn't had a lot of thought given to the activities, the flow of the day, how it aligns to the individuals in the room, or the core values, or whatever it might be. And although that can land well, we know that there's a risk when there's that level of thought that hasn't gone into an experience, that it can actually lead to disconnect, because it's not as inclusive as it probably could be. So that's the area that any client who comes to us now, we really want to lead them into an understanding that yes, you can have fun that way, but you're not going to get to that lasting impact. When there's, I guess, a better understanding of the team dynamics, the environment that we walk in, that's when we can have really good entertainment level. So, great networking, good fun, plenty of laughter, but that actually long term doesn't actually impact the culture. They might talk about their event or their experience the next week, the next month, but 3 months down the track, there's nothing left. Which is why the science is so important. So now all our information and the information like this webinar we're giving out today is about how do we create the lasting impact. And we've got resources and we've got conversations and frameworks in place to make sure that happens with all the clients that we can have. We're always grateful that when we get to work with the repeat clients and we get to know them, we know what activities and group dynamics we can use to actually have that long term. So it's a way of looking at events and team building to make sure the play-based team building lands really, really well. Now, if we progress towards the science side of things, I did want to, so I'm just going to drink the water. If we did want to understand a little bit of the basics of what's going on, okay, so the play it isn't fun. It actually changes the brain chemicals. And each time we engage in a playful activity, our brains release this mix of dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins. You may be familiar with those names of neurotransmitters, and a lot of the conversations you hear in society is around how the screens and the addiction to screens lowers the dopamine, or the lower serotonin levels in your body may contribute towards depression. But when we're playing, there's actually a boost in these motivation chemicals and these neurotransmitters, which allows us to live in harmony. So there's more going on than just a fun game in a way, right? So the dose effect is a way of putting all this together to ensure that these neurotransmitters allow us to be fulfilled and happy and joyful in our life. I guess a great example of that would be like a serotonin, or like a problem-solving activity where you can give a team a problem or a puzzle, and what they would do is increase their dopamine through the effort and the resilience they might need to challenge themselves on that if it's challenging to them. Hopefully it is. And then when they actually get to solve the puzzle as a team, that the serotonin levels will come up through that shared achievement and the respect of each other's thoughts and opinions of how they got to that end outcome. So I guess it's an example of how we can take an activity in a way and see how the neurotransmitters can translate into a long-term physical and mental benefit to our body. So in January, actually, we're going to cover this topic. So in our webinar in January, we're actually just going to focus the whole time on this dose effect, where we can give some better examples and resources around how to utilize that in a fun way. So that's the starting point on the science. This here is really crucial. So there's a massive misconception around play is a break from doing actual work, or it's child's play or games or whatever it might be. And what a lot of people do not understand is that is only half or one side of what play is. So we've broken play down into two different states here. So the verb of playing, that's when we're doing something. So that might be a game, a team building activity, a social activity, so defined as something fun and energizing, but quite temporary in how it looks. So think of that as the act of doing. Then we have the adjective or the trait, which is playfulness. So that is more the cognitive disposition towards optimism and curiosity and creativity in your life. So accessing both of those really enables you to utilize them in the most effective way. So frequent engagement in the state of play or doing play actually strengthens the trait through those neural connections. So if that makes sense, it enables you to be more foundation in the way you think and you live. So through the act of playing, you can be more playful. Again, Dwayne, I'm keen to hear your thoughts, because I know this is a concept you and I discuss at length, mate. If you wanted to add anything onto that in particular.
Look, I think in discovery of play, this is probably the most fundamental principle for everybody to understand that play is a state of being, not a state of doing. And the more we can understand that it is around how we get ourselves into that state of being, the sooner we can understand and how we get our teams into that state of being, the sooner we can be a more high performing team. So, really understanding the difference between doing something to get into a play state and actually getting into that play state without necessarily having to do a game per se. And probably just to finish on that bit there, Shane, is one of the things to understand is that two people can be doing the same thing. However, one is playing and one is not playing. And that's the difference between the verb and the adjective, is that we are all very different people, and how we actually play is very different. And understanding that is the basically the key to high performing teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's probably a nice segue into what I had to discuss next, which is looking at our, hang on, our play personalities. So this is one of my favorite things to talk about. So it's important to recognize that, as you said there, Dwayne, play is not the same for everyone. We are all different. And just like a lot of organizations will invest in behavioral profiling or psychometric testing, there is this recognition that how play shows up in our life is unique to us. It shows up differently. So there's 8 play personalities, which was identified by Dr. Stuart Brown of the National Institute for Play. And that was through years of research of understanding different backgrounds of play and belief systems and so forth. So um, the 8 personalities, they reveal how play naturally shows up and how we find joy and curiosity and creativity and connection and all those things. But it is unique, and there's no type that's better than others. It's simply, I guess, a unique pathway to our own play state, as you mentioned there, Dwayne. So for me personally, I'm an explorer, and what that means is, I'm energized by naturally seeking out new ideas and perspective and experiences, and I find joy and play and happiness when I can be experimenting and testing and discussing ideas with others and so forth. I love to connect the dots with different ways of solving problems and challenges. And anyone who knows me, anyone on this call would know that that's how I play. And it means that, when I build relationships through that shared discovery, it lights me up. Um, so in terms of the play personalities, the other understanding is you're not just going to be dominant in one. You will have representations of all of them in different things you do, but there will be one which stands out to you. And I'm really interested if anyone on this webinar, or you would know, just kind of thinking about your own life, where you might sit in terms of your own play personality, and whack that in the chat. It'd be interesting to see if you could do a very quick analysis of where you find inspiration and joy and happiness in your own time, and where you would find your own play personality. While you're doing that, I'll just quickly run through the 8 there. So you've got the Joker, which is defined by someone who likes to bring humor and lightness and energy. The kinesthetic, which likes to move their body. A lot of grounding and athletes will have that. The explorer, as I mentioned, myself, who's the explorer. We've got the competitor, motivated by challenge, and that can show up in any way. The director, obviously organizing structured events and opportunities to direct. Then we obviously the collector, which is the person who collects different items. What are the baseball cards for you, probably, Dwayne, if that was a collector, or different kind of items they like to connect. The artist, creator, and the storyteller. So it's a powerful thing to understand how you think and why you think a certain way, and what you find inspiration and joy from. And that really connects quite nicely to when you look at a team performance, how there's none that are better than others. They all make a high performing team in a way. So I can see just in the chat there, you got some storytellers, Kenneth, Joker. So there's probably, even within our group here today, there's a wide range of different meeting chats. What are you, Dwayne? I think you're a
Director, competitor of the two, yeah. And I think maybe now's a good time also to let people know that we will be sharing some resources a little later where you can actually do this test just online yourself and find out exactly what the test plays out as.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, a little bit on the play personalities there, and then I guess the final piece within the science side of it is looking at this word which you may not have come across. It's called neoteny, which is in definition retaining youthful traits in adulthood. So neoteny basically explains why it's unique to be a human, because it's rare within the animal kingdom, which is what a human is, to beyond adolescence to retain this trait, to want to learn, to retain youthful traits. Usually you mature and you kind of those drop away within the animal kingdom, but adults it doesn't. So um, when you have the traits like the curiosity and the imagination and social connection that are human based, they can be used as levers or strategic tools to basically help you grow as a human and connect for and through that fun actually develop a better understanding of the teammates around you in the environment. In the workplace, it can show up in many different ways. Um, but as it evolves, it's important that the complexity is more around the impactful and social connection to understand that. I think it might have been you, Dwayne, that was talking to me the other day around when do people stop playing and ages and kind of looking at this from a science point of view. Share that for me.
Absolutely. There was it was a webinar that I was watching where the research is indicating that it's about age 29 where we stop playing as adults for whatever reason it may be. It seems to be about age 29. But the key to we need to understand out of this is we might stop playing, but the need to play never leaves us. And I think that's the important understanding to take away from this. We stop it, but we need it.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly right. It's foundation to what we do. If we then move to trying to recognize play, because part of the education and the science is understanding that play is all around us, and sometimes we forget about it, even though we need it as a human. So what I've put together is not some ideas, but some kind of some examples of where play might be showing up in your own workplace. So the first one there being micro moments of laughter. Tiny bursts of humor. You may come across a colleague or someone that you work with that has that burst of humor, whether that's a joke, whether it's just passing a funny note, whatever it might be, and that micro moment of laughter, although it might be taken as just something in a passing by, it actually is a moment of play. And that particular person might be a joker as a play personality as an example. So recognizing those is important. Second would be the collaborative side of problem solving. And I think this is common practice in business around problem solving together in groups, whether that's meetings or team sprints or whatever it might be. And that's play in disguise, because if you're fulfilled like me as an explorer to explore new ideas, the problem solving is an aspect of play. And doing that naturally, you will see changes in body language, heads come together, energy of the group rise, the mindset shifts. So understanding that is play showing up in problem solving, the flow moments as well, when you're, in its purest form, just in a state of total absorption into an activity, something you enjoy doing, something that's challenging for you, where you're actually focused and you lose track of time. That can be a play in your workplace information. And then the last one would be just those informal team interactions. So, the unplanned pockets, very similar to the micro moments of laughter, but more just the moments of connection around the coffee machine where you might share a story from the weekend, a picture of a family, a friend, or something you love doing. All those, again, whether that's a storytelling aspect or a director aspect of play. So it's important to check in and share those wins. So again, if you get a moment, you kind of think about in your own workplace, in your own life, where moments of play show up. I'd love to hear what kind of information and comments everyone has around that. It's powerful to recognize that it's everywhere, and it's part of what we do. Not sure if you're willing to share in the group, feel free to kind of to post moments of play in your own life or workplace. When we now look at play in terms of integration into businesses, a lot of the time on the Play Lab this year and the outline that we've put together for the next 12 months is looking at our periodic play model here and going, right, how can we help organizations understand the science one, but then implement this in a staged progression? Because as I mentioned right at the top, it can be overwhelming if you're trying to do a million things at once that are new. So what we have here is, at the bottom of the pyramid, and again, kind of like the play personality, there's no one that's more important than others. They all play their part, but these are different ideas or concepts you can use to integrate play into a workplace. So the first one would be a play challenge. Traditionally, more the offside activity, the footy tipping, the fantasy football, all those kind of team lotteries, all those fun play challenges that just take people out of the norm. Doing the verb, doing something, playing, having fun, connecting, and have that social interaction. It's going to show up a little different based on each workplace, but that is a play challenge. Celebrating success. It's important to recognize that we can be more playful in how we celebrate. A lot of organizations will use morning teas and team celebration dinners and all these aspects of celebrating success, but making sure that's playful and coming together is important, and being intentional around creating those moments for your team is very impactful as well. We then move to play spaces, which is looking at the common areas that people visit. It can be the environments. Traditionally there'll be ping pong tables and pool tables and common areas around coffee machines. So this is structuring areas where people will visit around integrating play and having some fun. And it's used as both a way to rejuvenate the mind in the playfulness and also a fun playing activity. Then at the top, it becomes more purposeful in micro play. So intentionally taking a burst of play, like a little energizer or an activity, which I'll give in our ebook some examples, and breaking up the workday to reset in a way. It could be as simple as a thumb war or a 5-minute energizer. So something that's micro play, which wouldn't be a full challenge, just breaking up the day with fun. And then the playful meetings. This is there because we all have meetings and we all have probably too many meetings in a way. So we should recognize that to get the most out of those, we need to find ways to make them fun and engaging, because as I've already said, when you are fun and engaging, better ideas, better innovation, better connections going to happen, and that's how we solve problems. So, having icebreaker style activities in meetings or fun games can really break those up. Top of the pyramid becomes that play personality integration and the understanding that we are all a little bit different in how we get into that play state. So using that to build connections and have better conversations as a team goes a long way towards integrating all the ones below it into a foundational model of play into culture development. So I wanted to share that, and just know that a lot of the information we're going to be sharing in the Play Lab is foundational, based around how we can use this model to improve teams' performance and play. If we then go to what it looks like for a 12-month period of play, this has been designed around the 4 quarters, with quarter 1 being how to reignite play. So looking at the dose effect, looking at leadership and play and giving permission to play and overcoming some of those myths and the neuroscience. Quarter 2 is about reconnecting. So how you build the psychological safety within the group. How do you use play within the shared experiences? And a little bit about leadership in there as well. Quarter 3 becomes rebuilding. So looking at the culture reset, if you need to do that, if you're an organization that needs to use play better and more sustained, we will take an in-depth look at the play personalities as well. It's an opportunity that if you've done the test yourself, we're going to have a more in-depth conversation around all those traits, and then look at the play and the wellbeing aspect as well and how that aligns. And then finally looking at putting it all together in the last quarter and aligning what hopefully has been 3 quarters of purposeful play with business objectives, and then creating some more measurable culture change into 2026, 7, and so forth. So that's an overview of what we're going to have, or what we do have planned for you for next year. Pretty excited to look at that. If we look at quarter 1 as an example, because that's not far away now, as I mentioned, quarter 1 January will be all on the chemistry side of things and the dose effects. I'm looking forward to that. Talking about the neurotransmitters a little bit more in depth and how they show up in play in your own life, why they matter, and so forth in that direction. So that will be January. In terms of the timings and the dates for January, what I do have here is a QR code to register. So we're going to be holding this particular one on the 20th of January at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So if you're in Melbourne and Sydney, that'll be your time. All the other time zones are there for 45 minutes. We want to keep these reasonably short, sharp for 45 minutes so we can learn, we can implement, and then we can reset the month after. So Rachel, I think you're going to put this in the chat as well if you haven't already, around the links to register, but the QR code is there as well for what that looks like. February is then, as I mentioned, breaking down the myth. So looking at leadership and how we can, many leaders still carry that outdated belief that play is a break from work, and they're two separate things. So we need to, I guess, break that down and show how they're actually integrated, and play is not a break, it's how you work better together. So we're going to be doing that within February, and take a deep dive into what that looks like to reintroduce play into those playful meetings, look at the projects and any team rhythms without actually sacrificing anything. So without any added extra time as well. And then in March, to finish off the quarter, we're going to have a conversation with a play specialist. So someone that lives and breathes play, someone from the National Institute for Play, hopefully, that can share some experiences outside of Corporate Challenge around how all this science came about, some really good examples of how it lives and breathes in different organizations around the world, and how we can connect that neuroscience to different leadership. So I'm looking forward to that conversation already in March when that takes place. And a lot of that will be discussion around that 60 years of research that Dr. Stuart Brown has done on play and the foundations around it. To conclude today, I'd like to set a challenge. So if you're interested in play and you feel like you need to reset yourself and introduce play into your life, I have 3 points where I think you can do that between now and the next webinar in January. So the first one is to recognize these playful moments in your team and label them as play. I already mentioned the play in action in a way. So you need to bring your awareness to when these are happening and go, yes, that's play. That's someone being playful. That's the adjective on what it means to be in that play state. So the more you can do that, the more you can recognize that play is all around you, and you can leverage that and have better conversations around how play shows up. The second would be intentional in your own life around play. For me, that was taking up skateboarding with my son. My son wants to take up skateboarding. He's only 3. So I got myself a skateboard, and I'm going to see if I can not hurt myself and play in that regard. So I'm being intentional around actually going, right, I know I lack in that area. I want to have connection with him, and I want to bring play into my life. So I would encourage you all to think about, introducing on your calendars or your agenda items to how can you play more, what you do for play. I'm interested something which is going to be powerful for me personally. So be intentional around play. And then finally, it's the start of play conversation. So just simply go out and ask colleagues, friends, partners, what do they do for play? If they had spare time and enjoy themselves, how would they spend that? What's their play personality? Start conversations around this and recognize that we are all a little different, like I've said, but we all have play in our life in some way, and start communicating from that way. So that's your homework between now and the next webinar. In a way, I'm keen to see how it goes. Dwayne mentioned the play personality quiz. So we've put together a periodic play gift pack for everyone. So if you'd like to understand some of the concepts and some of the tools, what I have is a QR code here, and I think Rach will put that in the chat as well, where inside you've got the play personality quiz. So the full quiz, I would recommend you share that with your team. You can get everyone to do that within your own teams, where you can actually go through the questions and see where your play personality lies. We have a connection deck there, which is designed to enhance meetings in particular, different energizers, different fun games that you can self-facilitate, whether that's at a meeting or an off-site or a check-in or some sort of energizer. Within the Play Pack ebook, there's 6 different activities, so self-guided micro play activities that you can use with yourself or your team or your family. I do know someone who I think does these in the Friday evening games nights with their family. So, these are the type of concepts where you might be able to take that and use for a bit of fun. And then finally, there's an ebook on the science as well, from the playroom to the boardroom. So a little more of a in-depth look at the science behind it. So feel free to grab that, and we will put the links in the chat, like I've said, and then we can go after the call as well. We can send those around. So that's what I wanted to cover, and I guess with the remaining few minutes that we do have, I'm really keen. I know, Dwayne, there was some questions in particular that were sent through for people in the sign up side of things when they were doing the registration around play. If you had those, I'd be happy to answer any of those questions, and if anyone else has some as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there was quite a few. I've just picked out a couple that I think were probably really stuck out to me as key questions that probably are on the tip of most people's tongue. Do CEOs recognise the importance of play? I think it's a really massive question. I'm interested in your opinion.
Yeah, big question. Great question, that. And I think, look, we ran an industry insights report earlier in the year, and the data from that, which was sent out to different, not just CEOs, but management level, managing directors and leadership teams, was they'd recognise the importance of play, and they know that play in particular can drive engagement and employee retention and productivity, but they don't know how to actually utilise that in a functional form. What I mean by that is they still think to play is to stop work and to do something different. And I think there's that disconnect in that. So yes, they understand it, but no, they don't know how. So to answer the question is it's more around the education of how you can integrate the playfulness approach into what they're already doing in their team to have a more playful culture. And then that will be more beneficial. I'm keen on your thoughts as well on that.
Yeah, look, absolutely, and I'm going to just repeat what I've said before because right at at the beginning of understanding what play is, we really need to understand that it's a state of being, not a state of doing, and that education needs to get back to our management level as well, because as soon as we can, because most of them are probably going to be directors, competitors. As personality profiles, and as soon as you can show them and you can link that to high performance and results, the sooner that they will appreciate the importance of play. I think it really does come back there, and it really comes back to this education piece and this information that now has got 60 years of research around it and ongoing, mind you. If we can get them interested in this space, I think we can certainly get some movement in them understanding. Because this probably leads into the next question that I had there, which is we are struggling to convince our people managers that play will be beneficial to all people and teams. It would help us build strong, high-performing teams and not just a collection of individuals. And I think that this is where this education piece probably comes into it, that when we can get managers, team leaders, CEOs, business owners to understand play as the adjective, then we're going to get some movement in them understanding the importance of how we can do this and using those periodic play, different levels of how they can just be moments, and they can just be moments that are introduced in meetings and in hallways and so forth. So I think that's an important part of changing that thought process.
Yeah, can I add on onto that question there? I think if they're struggling to convince, they probably don't see the value in it at this stage. So just to try and change their paradigm overnight is going to be a hard sell. So I think my advice to whoever submitted that question would be to start to recognize those moments of play that are happening, and then what's happening to the individual that has those. So you might find someone that has a little micro moment of play around a laughter or a joke, and then watch what happens to their state and their productivity after that and their focus, and then highlight that to the management, and you see how you can link them together. And then I think over time, when the evidence starts to stack up, it'll naturally convince whoever those management people are that lack I guess the knowledge on that around how it can work. So that would be my advice of how I would go about that, because I think just trying to barge the door down with information won't work at the start. It's about building a ripple effect of impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look, one question too that did pop up in in the earlier webinar, which is around, we're not in the office necessarily all the time with our new hybrid workspace that we've got, and does this still apply in that space? And I think you actually used a really good word earlier. It takes more intentional focus. And yes, it's just as important. Nothing changes. It just takes a little more intentional focus when we're doing it in this environment. But definitely is still a necessity.
Yeah, and I think with that question, it was like when you're physically there with each other, these moments will spontaneously happen. Where when you're
Yeah.
online, it needs to be, intentional in terms of creating those. So both are beneficial, just different in how they go about showing up. So for
Yeah.
sure. Look,
Yep.
I want to thank everyone for attending today. It's been a great session.